have with me here today Nicholas Edelman and Richard Duff, who are the co-founders of Aventor. Introduce our audience to Aventor. Give us the elevator pitch.
So Aventor is a developer and operator of surf parks, and the surf parks have a mixed-use component to them as well. So the technology that we're using, which is at the center of our developments, is called the wave garden. So the wave garden produces an abundance of surfing waves and provides the surfing experience. Aventor's got 3 projects under development, and we are Wave Garden's largest partner globally. And I think at the core of what we're doing is we're providing experiences. We're providing both the surfing experiences, but also a health and wellness experience around that. In terms of our sort of higher purpose as a business, we do want to improve mental and physical well-being. And we believe the wave garden is a fantastic place-making tool for the center of the development, and we'll get more into that as we go along.
Yeah, absolutely. And let's talk a little bit about that. There are lots of things that you could put, as this sort of core or center of a large mixed-use development. Why a wave garden? Why a surf park?
Post-COVID, there's been a huge movement to outdoor recreation. So we've seen a huge spike in people playing golf, playing tennis, surfing, skiing, and lifestyle sports have long been used as centerpieces for real estate development. So we've seen lots of golf components integrated into real estate development, ski components, and surfing. The technology has now allowed surfing to be integrated into the centerpiece of a real estate development. So essentially the technology has just come of age. As I mentioned, the Wave Garden Cove is that centerpiece of our developments. It can provide different types of waves in terms of a Waikiki style wave, which is a beginner style wave, a Malibu wave, which is more of an intermediate wave, and then a trestles type wave for the people in California, which is more sort of advanced or expert style wave. So that is your center piece for the attraction. It is a place-making tool for the development. And then we've got the ability to put the mixed-use components around the wave garden as that central attractor.
I do want to ask you guys, we talked a little bit about why surfing as the core, but why you guys? How did you come to that?
It's a great question. I think at any careers fair, there's no sort of surf park developer track. So anyone's path into surf park development is a pretty unique track. For me personally, I was working at Deutsche Bank looking at different mixed-use assets, infrastructure assets, in both Singapore, Hong Kong, and New York. Especially on the rollout of solar, wind, battery. We did combined cycle gas turbine deals, et cetera. But probably where the story gets more interesting is while living in Singapore, I reconnected with the sport of surfing, which has been a deep passion of mine for a long time, and found a group called Pegasus Surf Lodges while I was living in Singapore. And firstly, I was just visiting that business as a customer. So Pegasus is the largest owner of boutique surf hotels globally, which is, again, another niche asset class. But the experiences that Pegasus provides are unique. The core experience is 6 hours of surfing a day, but then you've got family-style meals around that. You've got the community days they do, the awards ceremonies at night. And from a customer perspective, it was just fantastic. It allowed you to get off grid. It allowed you to be less stressed and just forget about the world and really be present in that current experience. From there, I ended up leaving Deutsche Bank and going to work for Pegasus with Richard. And we were managing Pegasus with another partner for 2018. And we got a really unique insight into the surfing world and the surf hospitality world. So from how did we get into this perspective, both of us had interesting infrastructure, capital markets backgrounds, and then combine that with the surf and surf hospitality market. So the two Venn diagrams did overlap, and when the technology came of age and Wave Garden was commercially viable, we decided to found Aventor in 2019 to focus on the development and operation of surf parks.
Yeah, so let's talk about sort of holistically what these developments will look like. So you guys have 3 projects underway already. Give me the big picture. The surf park is at the center. What do you put around it? For me, I'm not a surfer, so what is there for everyone else?
Yeah, I can answer that one, Hannah. I think interestingly enough, from all of the work that we've done, in the US, the population base, about 1% of the population surfs on average. However, there is a large portion of the population who would like to surf and don't have access to surfing experiences. Obviously, that is solved for by the Wave Garden. I think secondly, as you rightly point out, there is a subset of the population who also want to come and enjoy a beach environment. And I think the opportunity for us to lean into all of those components will create a really vibrant and exciting community and area. So to speak to the ancillary components to the development, obviously the surf park at the centre, or the surfing lagoon, that leans in and creates an opportunity. People will be there, a beach bar, a restaurant, a cafe, depending on the time of day, the activation of those areas. The food and the offerings are an important component of that experience. I think also importantly, the surfing population, or a subset of the surfing population, has always been at the forefront of wellness and thinking about physical and mental health. And so we see these parks as an opportunity to create fantastic wellness-led components. And I think given that our core consumer that's coming to the parks is going to be, predisposed to lots of different kind of wellness facilities. And I think, as the industry evolves, we're excited about bringing in new concepts that, and creating a place of genuine cluster of these types of components. So I think as you talk about memberships and the like of people part of the club, those experiences can be bundled on and become, very additive to both the operating business and the experiences at the park.
We believe these assets are going to be great for communities in terms of community hubs and community centres. And what we're trying to do is democratise access to surfing and the sport of surfing, but we're also trying to democratise the access to the amenities around. So we think these will be great for communities, and the cities that we've been working with have been very happy to have them as centrepieces or as trophy assets within their cities. Obviously it's great for the local population, great for well-being, but also great for tourism.
Yeah.
Which is a great segue into the further components of the development. So hospitality, Nick and my background and what we were doing before this was operating surf hotels. That was essentially providing access to an uncrowded wave. We were sending people to some of the most far-flung parts of the world to do that. And it's become more and more difficult to find an uncrowded wave. And so there is a great opportunity to combine the experiences that we are providing on site into a hotel offering. I think over and above the hotel component, the interesting element as it relates to developers is all of the amenities are already on site. And so other than you don't have to necessarily develop all of the ancillary amenities that you ordinarily might have to in a hotel offering. So we see that as a very exciting component of the development. And further outside of the central core ecosystem around the lagoon edge, with all the amenities we're providing, it's a natural place for people to live. And so interestingly enough, despite the fact that only 1% of the population currently are core surfers, the interest in the residential offering when you kind of go out and talk to people is about 20% of the population have said they would be very interested in living next to or close to a surf park, given the ancillary components that we're offering, and including the blue space. I think, and then you go further over, but about 50% of the population is interested. So the wider ecosystem can become, and it's interesting in terms of listening to the commentary today earlier on stage, talking about what mixed use really is. Mixed use is creating all of the experiences you want within your life. Right. And I think from our perspective, the surf park is a great kickoff and anchor to that. The ancillary components then make that a richer experience, and then that leads into being a place where people want to live.
I want to understand a little bit about the surf park as you just said, the anchor. We've reported a lot on the sort of amenity wars. So many developments bringing amenities in as a core, attraction. Seems to me this is this central amenity for an entire development that can blossom around it. But surf parks historically are very, very expensive and challenging to build. You guys have this partnership with Wave Garden, and you think that makes the proposition more financially feasible? Is that fair?
Yeah, so Hannah, when we first looked at the category, Rich and I looked at all the technologies that were available. I think everyone saw the launch of Kelly Slater's wave company in 2019. Fantastic wave, brilliant, but the frequency of the wave was only 15 waves per hour. So in terms of the number of surfers you can have in the water, it's between 4 and 6 surfers. So when Wave Garden in 2019 came out with their technology, they increased the waves from 15 waves per hour to 1,000 waves an hour. And then the number of surfers you can have in the water from 4 people to 80 people.
Right.
So suddenly that opened up the commercial model for this space. We founded Aventura in 2019 following that technology leap in terms of frequency. And then as you've got 80 people coming in and out of the water on the hour, that then feeds that mixed-use component around the surf park. But that really opened up the category.
Yeah. So for our real estate audiences, what we're talking about here is a really large-scale mixed-use development, which has an enormous number of challenges, and you guys are bringing in a uniquely challenging in some way center amenity in the surf park. Tell me about, some of the difficulties. I imagine the infrastructure to build a project like this would be complicated.
I would say it's a new industry with its own unique challenges, but at the same time, opportunities that come with that.
Sure.
So the surfing lagoon in its own right is 5.5 acres. So land availability is a key component of how we look at markets. I think over and above that, the geotechnical properties of the site are very important. You are essentially putting 3 or 4 tons of force in a dynamic way on a particular location on a very consistent basis, and as such, the geotechs are really an important component of the development, and is the first thing we look at on site selection. I think you can look at permitting and entitlements as an opportunity or a challenge. In our case, I think we have a really exciting amenity to bring to a community. Historically, in all of our markets, our ambition is to not only focus on all of the consumers which will come to the park and can afford to come to the park, but also giving back to the community. And I think we've been able to work with local bodies in the context of New Zealand or Australia, where we're working. We're partnered with the local board riders and surfing administrations, but further and above that, working with mental health groups and also drowning prevention groups where in coastal environments where some people aren't necessarily familiar with the power of the ocean. And so I think we've been able to weave in a very positive narrative to what we're doing, and it also gives us an opportunity to get positive permitting outcomes.
Yeah, I'll add to that in terms of, I think it's a challenge and an opportunity, and the thing that makes it really exciting is that it's new. So especially here in the US. So there's not currently a wave garden in the US, and that's obviously what Aventura is addressing. There are those 7 wave gardens globally. They're operating 7 days a week, 16 hours a day. So I think from that perspective, we've got the overseas knowledge and our business partner built the first wave garden in Melbourne. So having that experience from that development is fantastic as we come into the US. But I'd say a challenge is not many people know about it yet.
Sure.
But as soon as we have one on the mainland US, people will understand this better. I think we are seeing surfing getting opened up to new markets such as the Swiss Alps, where there's a wave garden development at the base of the Matterhorn and Mont Blanc. We've seen surfing come to South Korea in terms of the wave garden development in South Korea. And these are fantastic assets. And when we visit the asset, they're fun. You're seeing communities build around this shared experience of activity and also the ecosystem around the lagoon. And the challenge is that we just need to go through the process of education here in the US and hopefully get more people to surf the facilities overseas as we're bringing one to the US.
And the plan here for the Aventura development, it's not, just the wave garden. Of course, it's the mixed use development all around it. But is your plan to be, the core developers of all of the hospitality, maybe residential, commercial assets that get developed around, or are you all looking for partners as well?
Yeah, I'd say in terms of from a development perspective, we are the master developer for the wave garden as the central facility. But in terms of the mixed-use components, we are looking to find best-in-class operators for each component, be it the food and beverage, be it the retail, be it for the wellness facilities. So for our projects in Australia and New Zealand, we've found fantastic partners to work with, and we'll be looking for the same here in the US for those operational components. So we are looking to curate that ecosystem and that mix of partners for each development.
And so you guys are breaking into the US is the plan. Tell me what takes Aventura to the next level as you come here. What are you guys looking for and excited about?
The US is obviously the biggest market in the world. I'm from New Zealand, next from Australia. We have projects in both of those countries. And I think we're excited to bring our experiences in our home nations and then around the ocean to locations that aren't necessarily served with that. The markets that we are focused on in the US is Austin, Dallas, Nashville, Phoenix, Las Vegas, Jacksonville, and Atlanta. Those markets outside of Jacksonville are all inland locations. And I think there's a great opportunity as it relates to creating a beach environment in those cities.
In terms of, what we're looking for here in the US, in Australia and New Zealand, we've got capital partners, and each project is an SPV, which we're capitalising individually. We do have a site here in the US. We haven't announced that yet, but we'll be announcing that soon, which we're excited about. But in terms of capital partners, we are looking to individually capitalise each asset, both on the debt and equity side. So we're always looking for fantastic capital partners for projects, either on a systematic basis or from a project-by-project basis.
For those projects that you all already have underway in Australia and New Zealand, what has the reaction been from local folks in the real estate community, as well as the communities themselves?
To give the viewers some context, our project in New Zealand is a 100-acre greenfield site. We have integrated a sustainability story that enables the surf park to be heated by a data centre that is adjacent to the surf park. And then the New Zealand grid's about 85% renewable, which is a fantastic level, but the 15% that's non-renewable is being offset by an on-site solar farm. So we are taking a sustainability story, wrapping that together in a world first. I think from the perspective of the real estate community, the area that we're in is lacking a town centre, and this is very much now, in our view, seen as the future town centre for the area. And so the densities that can come to the site, the opportunity to really build, a phenomenal community, and I think, wider than this, just the real estate community that have embraced it and looked at it and kind of understand exactly what we're trying to achieve. The local residents have embraced what we're doing and are excited by the fact that the amount of gentrification that will come of the area and the future path of the area has actually changed as a result of what we're doing, and as such has been really, really, really publicly. I think within our second project, or our first project as it actually is in Perth, we have partnered essentially with the Western Australian government on a transit-orientated development. So the city of Perth in Western Australia has spent $2 billion of infrastructure on the area of Coburn, and we will be sitting in the centre of that development as a surf park as the catalyst for gentrification as well. So as the city moves from an industrial area into essentially a fully vibrant town centre, similar to what we described in Auckland, we have been the catalyst for that change.
From a community perspective, this is not something we set up. There was actually a Perth Surf Park supporters group which formed online. That group's now up to 3,000 people that are passionate and excited about working. From the tourism board perspective, we've also had good engagement with the tourism board, both at a state and federal level in Australia for the project. So they're excited about bringing the project to life and for this to be a tourist attraction for Perth in Australia. And we'd expect to do the same here in the US.
So what I'm hearing is there's a public-private partnership portion of this, partnerships with local governments. There's private investment coming in. There are JV partners. There are other developers potentially coming in to create some of the density around the core site that you all are developing. It seems like a lot of balls in the air. So how are you all sort of juggling the many different parts of these projects?
Yes, I'd say we've got, our team is both based in Australia and based in the US. So our head office is in Los Angeles here. So we've just got an office down at Venice Beach. We've also got a head office over in Perth, Australia, next to those developments. In terms of managing the different projects, we've got our team working on that full time, but at each team level, we've also got development managers, which they're not looking at the global picture, they're looking at that specific project. So the successful delivery of the Perth Surf Park is that sole focus of our development manager in Perth, similar in Auckland, such that they're just project-specific focused. From an umbrella perspective, we are looking at a lot of different developments, but we've adequately resourced to manage that at the moment.
I think over and above that, we have to be very clear on what we do and what we don't do.
Mm-hmm.
I think as an organisation, we essentially have a land development business, so we have to buy land, entitle it, build the surf park. So we need to be best in class at developing the surf park, and ultimately, as we start to open our facilities, be the best in the world at running and providing the experiences. In terms of what we don't do, we are cultivating and bringing in best-in-class operators who buy into the vision of what we're trying to achieve. And so our job, while it may sound complicated, that there's lots of different moving parts, in some ways is actually quite simple. We find the sites and then we build a master plan around it and a scheme and vision for the area, execute on the surf park component, and then go and find great partners to work with. And so a lot of the business and that we're in is finding those people in each appropriate market to work with who can elevate the quality in what we're doing.
Yeah, and further to that, we've become specialists in this niche experiential asset. So we know a lot about the wave garden and how it operates and how to develop it. We're then partnering with, and everyone knows real estate is hyper-local, so we are partnering with the local partners, which they've got the understanding of their locality, permitting, etc. So that combination of the two has proved to be fantastic. So at our project in the mainland US, we've got a fantastic local partner, and similar to our local partner in New Zealand, which has been fantastic from that perspective.
Yeah. Really, really exciting project. Super interested to hear about the site coming in the US soon. Thank you guys so much for being.
Appreciate it. Thank you very much.